Are there any connections between Solo, A Star Wars Story, and the Rebels animation show? There certainly are more than I thought there would be, but before we get to that, I'm Mike, and welcome back to Force Within TV. Consider joining the Star Wars community by subscribing. And before we go any further, this video does contain spoilers for Solo, A Star Wars Story, but what are those Solo and Rebels connections? Well, first, I just want to say I was super excited to see how many direct connections from Solo to Rebels there are. For example, an Easter egg you might have missed was Han mentioning the VCX 100. It was during the first game of Sabacc with Lando. Han lies and says that he's the owner of a VCX 100, which is the same model of ship as the Ghost. This connection to animation alone makes me happy, but there are many others if we take a closer look. Another, which isn't an Easter egg but a similarity you might have missed, is that Han and Ezra have a similar background as street rats. Ezra's life on Lothal as a street rat is surely the Disney version compared to Han and Corellia, but it's interesting to see these two heroes have come from very similar beginnings as thieves on the streets. Yet another quick nod to Rebels from Solo is the inclusion of an RA-7 protocol droid, the same model as the sarcastic AP-5 on Rebels. It's still a shame we didn't get to see the Steven Stanton voice character at the end of Rebels Season 4, but cool that we got to see a familiar droid in Solo. But moving on to a larger connection I came up with as I flipped through the new Solo reference guide, and that is the similarities between the office of Dryden Voss and Thrawn's office on the Chimera. They both have a great collection of cultural artifacts and artwork. Though I'll admit Thrawn does have more actual artwork, it is an interesting connection between these two characters. Dryden's collection includes a set of Old Republic Mandalorian armor, for example, similar to how Thrawn has an old clone trooper helmet in his office. And of course, one of the biggest surprises in the Solo movie is seeing the former Darth, now known only as Maul. Great to see the same lightsaber he had in Rebels, and of course the exact same voice actor as Sam Witwer, though it did seem a little different for some reason, maybe just because it wasn't part of animation. But most importantly here, this shows us that Lucasfilm is willing to bring animation characters into the movies. It's just a matter of the writers being familiar with them, and I know, yes, Darth Maul was in the Phantom Menace, he was in the movies before, but I think of him as an animation character because Darth Maul was really developed in animation. So it was so cool to see that character make the transition from animation and comic book back into the movies. Of course, we also saw Lando and Rebels during Season 1 in Idiot's Array in Season 2, Episode 1, Siege of Lothal. Remember, Lando actually sent a droid to help out the Rebels in Season 2, which makes me think about L3, his droid companion in Solo. And yet another big connection to Rebels in Solo is the space octopus whale thing that we see on the Kessel Run in Solo. It's not exactly like the Purrgil space whales we see in Rebels, but it is very similar. And remember that space monsters have been a big part of Star Wars even since The Empire Strikes Back, and that asteroid monster almost eats the Millennium Falcon. Another similarity between the film and the animation is the rescue of Wookiees. In Season 1, we see the Rebels rescuing a group of Wookiees, and of course at the Kessel Spice Mines. And of course in Solo, we see Chewbacca rescuing a group of Wookiees as well. We also have Enfys Nest and Hero. They are very similar characters, as they're both driven to fight against the Empire and start a galaxy-wide rebellion. Though I think Enfys Nest might be a bit more like Saw Gerrera. It'd be interesting if the Enfys Nest gang actually grows into the Saw Gerrera partisans, but hopefully we'll get an answer about that in an upcoming book. There's also the loose connection between the Old Republic Mandalorian armor and Dryden Voss's office, and Sabine in her Mandalorian armor. We have the Dryden Voss also has what is called a repaired holocron by the visual guide, and that of course connects with Ezra and Maul's holocron. The visual guide also tells us that Tubes, a very similar character to the Two Tubes brothers, is in Solo, and of course we get to see one of the Two Tubes brothers in Season 4 of Rebels. So my fellow theory crafting Star Wars fans, use the Force within you to make the Star Wars community a better place. Share your thoughts and ideas and encourage those who do the same. And let's end with the question of the day, and that is, are there any other similarities or connections or Easter eggs between Rebels and Solo: A Star Wars Story? Let me know in the comments below, and may the Force be with you.